Welcome to the What Are We Doing Here podcast, where we share the inspiring stories of two completely opposite women who overcame their unhealthy relationships with food and negative self talk and found a path to health and healing through self discovery and natural nutritional supplements. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Brittany, and today we're going to talk about holiday stress. We just got through Thanksgiving and we've got Christmas coming up, and this time of year we go from our regular anxiety to that really fancy Christmas anxiety. So we're just going to kind of talk about stress and how we're going to deal with it to get through the holidays.
Yep. So, the irony of Thanksgiving having just happened and holiday stress, neither of us really had to deal with any of that holiday stress in the traditional form, right? You were sick and didn't get to participate, and my mom got injured. And so they would have been coming down to celebrate with us. So we went to Busch Gardens. We had a non-traditional celebration. The park
The
was
perks of
open.
living in Florida here.
Exactly. So we spent the day riding rides, and oh, my kids, they're so funny. So we bought them those full suit pajamas while we were there because it got a little chilly as the sun went down. So they were Rudolph. And so she is Rudolph. It's a Rudolph suit. And then Will, oh my gosh, my 6-foot little man is in these full suit black pajamas with Rudolph on them. It was just so much fun. And so, it's sometimes nice to be able to let go and feel like you don't have any of that holiday stress. However, we'll be traveling for Christmas and we'll be back with family and all of the hustle bustle and all of that. And so, we really just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of stressors because you may have an amazing family and it doesn't, you love getting together. And like for us now, being separated by 1,000
Yeah.
miles from all of our family, we're really excited. And so the stress is different. For me and for our family, it's not necessarily triggers with family as much as it is travel, packing, getting all the gifts there or getting there and purchasing gifts and how we do that kind of stuff. So what about you? Is there anything specific that normally comes up around the holidays? I mean, sometimes, because I'm not going to lie, like there obviously is a little bit of family, some of the relationships are still a little bit, I don't really know what the word is, strained. There are some strained relationships still, even though we live far away. So obviously there are some things that kind of bubble up and some of those emotions about being back in close proximity for a long time period. So you tell me a little bit about things that are kind of bubbling up for you.
So, well, we're not in close proximity for a long time period. So I don't think I have that much of a trigger like you might, where you're, traveling and staying with family. There's always the worry that if we're going to get together, because last year, I think it was after Christmas before we saw each other because everybody was sick. So you plan the best you can, but it never goes correctly. My stress comes completely from the what I put on myself. Um, so I make my list, I buy my gifts, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I really need this one's got more than this one. And so I start like buying more. And it I guess I'm a giver and I don't know, I just keep constantly pouring in. And so every year I tell mom I need a better system because it stresses me out that one, you know, nephew might get something more than my nieces in Chicago. Like it stresses me constantly about the gift situation. And we've talked about doing the family vacation thing and nobody buying gifts. We can't really do like the traditional dirty Santa because everybody's in different places. So we usually mail a bunch of gifts and it becomes such a stressor. I've even talked about just if it fits in a box, that's the only thing we're buying. But I never stick to it. I always, at the very last minute, am rushing out to supplement because I think it's not enough. And
Yeah.
it almost ruins the holiday for me. So about 4 years ago, I didn't buy any gifts. I said, I'm not going to do it to myself this year. And that was the worst Christmas ever because I realize my joy comes from the shopping and the giving. So yeah, that's my stressor, the gift situation.
So it's ironic because we want it to be about the thought,
Mhm.
having a thoughtful gift. But we start getting wrapped up. And some of those thoughts come from, you know, past experiences with Christmases that you had, something that you saw that someone else got something better than you when you were a kid. And some of these things we may not even be able to identify. But if you can, I think that it's important to look at if you can identify a trigger and try to avoid it, obviously. Um, but with the holidays and these triggers, they can also elicit poor habits
Mm.
like going out and shopping more and stressing. But it can also lead to some emotional eating
Mm.
and not just eating, but like it can people who have had problems with alcohol or anything like that. The other
True.
thing is if this is a first holiday without a family member, if this is the first time that you're celebrating and you've lost somebody you've loved, or you have a change in your family dynamics, you're no longer married. There are a lot of things that can really bubble up around the holidays because there is such an attachment to family being the center of the holidays. And it's important. But I think it was awareness to me that people are like, "Oh, how was your Thanksgiving?" And I was like, "It was just another day." Because we spent it different and the stress was completely relieved. And so I was thinking about for us, how can we approach Christmas with the travel and look at it almost as just a summer trip there?
Yeah.
Like trying to take out all of the stress that comes with expectations of gift giving
Yeah.
and expectations of keeping your diet on track. And if we can just let go of one, I'm an adult. And if I want to eat pumpkin pie or I want to eat apple pie, and you make that choice for the day and letting it be okay,
Mm.
or buying the gifts and knowing that it's an impactful gift, it's a thoughtful gift, and not having to analyze, did I spend the same amount of money? And just letting it be okay. There are a lot of things, I mean, in life in general, but specifically looking at Christmas and how can we choose to think differently about things? How can you look at it and say, I'm going to let this be enough? We've had some Christmases with our kids that we were disappointed, right? We worked so hard and a big trip and big gifts, and they didn't have the reaction that we were expecting. So we as parents set ourselves up
Mhm.
for disappointment. So how can we look at the holidays in a way that we don't set expectations for ourselves that are too high?
Yeah, that's good. Because that's when the stress occurs, right?
It
Is either
does.
by trigger or by setting yourself too high of expectations.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think you're exactly right because if it's a meaningful gift, what does it matter? But see, we live in a time today where kids don't go without for the
Mm-hmm.
most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you're given, so say you're given a list to buy from, it kind of takes the joy out of things. So you kind of go off course, and then the kid has four already. So things have changed so much from when I was younger. It's hard to even look back and kind of build from there, just and also family dynamic. What you said there, it got me good because I don't have children. I'm my mother's only child. Um, when the grandparents died and all the cousins went their own way. Um, Thanksgiving for us is the three of us. And
Mhm.
so, it's very hard for us to get together and be joyful when the cousins are all having their get-togethers, or my dad's family's all somewhere else, and it's hard because the family structure is different these days, not
Mhm.
just the gift giving. And
Yep.
so we face stressors today that we didn't see our parents have to get through when we were younger. And because I came from a broken home, but my dad's family did something, my mom's family did something. Now that we're older, everybody and their kids do something, and it's just us. And so
Mhm.
that right there, it's almost a sad time of year for us. I remember I drove in from Texas the year that we lived there, and I was the only person to show up for Christmas, and I drove 12 hours. So it can be, people don't realize when they cancel or don't show up that they're also impacting you. So I kind of, maybe I overcompensate with the gifts, but I think maybe even, I need to look at it as that's on them. Like,
Yes.
so, I mean, it doesn't mean I don't love them any different. I love them any less. But the fact is, I'm sorry that you're not here, or I'm sorry I can't come to your get together, but why are we not all together anymore just because the grandparents are gone? So, but I know I'm not the only person that's going through that. It's the way the family structure is these days. So, yeah, that's a stressor for me too.
And I love that you were able to see that it's not on you. But
Yeah,
what
see, Lindsay, that's the growth from this podcast.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But that in itself, just being able to look at it and say, I can't control the other person. I can't control what they do. I can't control I'll tell you. Let me give you an example of this is big growth for me. Gift giving from grandparents. I have kids. I have brothers. I have nieces and nephews. We do all get together. And there have been times in the past that I, as a parent, look and say, I felt like my kids got shafted. Not necessarily in money, but like thoughtfulness or, and I was choosing to look at that from my wounded child's lens. My
Yeah,
kids couldn't care less. But I
good.
made it about me and looking at it the way that I view it. And I asked, my son one time, I was like, hey, how'd you feel about that? He was like, I think it's cool that this kid got that. And I was like, good, awesome, cool. Yeah. And I had to like suck it up and like not push my
Yeah.
feelings and my emotion around it on my kids because we do that too. As
Mhm.
adults, we look at things so much differently. They're just oblivious and having fun and enjoying opening presents and so again, that's the adult perspective. They're opening the gifts and so if they don't have the reaction to a gift that we think they should have a reaction to. It was the top of their list. They wanted this thing more than anything in the world, and they just opened it and sat it to the side, and they were ready to open another present. What is going on?
Yep. Yeah.
So, so being able to this is my recommendation for holiday stress. Being able to stop yourself and say, "Why is this upsetting me? What about this situation that my kid just opened this gift that I think they should be excited about? Why is it bothering me? They've got lots of presents. They're excited to be opening more presents. Now, when everything's settled and they've got a second to kind of look at what they have, then you're going to notice what they start playing with, what they start, so just being able to settle yourself and uh, identify what are your emotions based on your past, your traumas, your perspectives.
I mean, I do, but you still have to have the discipline, and even if you recognize the triggers, the discipline to stop yourself. Because I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, it sounds great. It sounds
Uh-huh.
great, Lindsay, but
Yeah.
I haven't started buying because it's a stressor. Normally, I try to be finished with Christmas shopping, but as I've gotten older and the families have, kind of went their own ways, it's kind of like just a hassle. It's not even joyful anymore. So yeah, I hear you. I do, but it's more about implementing it for me. I have to let it go out of my control and just do what I can. But man, it's not easy to hear. You have your kids and y'all have plans, but like our plans last year, I mean, I still had Christmas presents under my tree in February because we were still trying to make a time that work for everybody to get together. Like when I put my tree up, I moved Christmas presents to the office. Like it just so I do hear you, but it's more about I have to come to terms with the fact that the family dynamic has changed.
Right.
Um, for me and anybody else too, where their family dynamic has changed so much that it was 3 days of being together, playing games to absolutely not being with any of them. Um, for you to come to terms with that. And this has been, 5, 6 years now. And maybe I just haven't been dealing with it. You kind of just push it to the back, get through it. I know a lot of people that have that mindset. Let's just plow through the holidays. Thank God Christmas is over. But
Yep.
really, man, if you could just get back to the core of where you need to be. If you need family time, then make it happen. And that's on me. So I should have just made it happen. Or I need to deal with it, because it sounds good to say find your triggers, deal with them, or, you know, but it's another thing to have the discipline to do it. You
Yeah.
know, I can leave here today with the intention of doing things differently, not buying as many gifts, not overcompensating, making sure that everything's perfect and everybody gets together on the correct date. I can leave here with those intentions, but if I don't follow through with them and have the discipline to not buy the presents, have the discipline to not stress when we have to change the day of Christmas, then that implementation is where I get hung up. And I'm sure a lot of people do, you
It
know,
is.
making intentions become reality is the difficult part. It should be. I believe there's somebody.
So I think you're right that it's hard to implement it, but now is not the time to implement these things. Let's be honest. I mean, for real.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this holiday season is awareness. It's noticing that you're doing it, but we're too far into the year right now. You can have some awareness around it and you can try. You can try to implement some of these things, but don't criticize, don't judge yourself if you're not able to do it because we're in the thick of it. It's really hard when the emotions are already there. When we need to implement things are when we're settled. So it's thinking about already, yes, we're going to get through the holidays. That whole, oh, I can't wait till trying to enjoy it as much as possible and remember that there's a better way. And that at the first of the year, starting to work on boundaries.
Here's that
Starting,
word again,
I
Lindsay.
know, I know. Last time we said we were going to do it, but it's not the right time. And I think that that's
It's
a
not.
big part. It's not. We're around the holidays. There's stress. It's not the time for us to talk about boundaries because you're not in an emotional state to do it. No, I'm just teasing.
No, you're so right. I've not been in an emotional state to do it.
And
So,
so,
what do
but
you recommend? I mean, okay, so yes, I'm in the thick of it now. So, how do we cope with the stress that's coming? Because you have said before, when you prepare for a roadblock, when you prepare for these things, it's easier to deal with. So, we're in the thick of it. We know the stress is coming
yep,
if it's not already here or when it happens. What's your recommendation?
yep,
You
it
know?
is to be aware of it,
Mm,
know that it's coming. And the way to prepare for it is, or to deal with it in the moment,
mm,
is to stop for a second, walk outside. That cold blast of air is going to snap you out of whatever's going on, because we're not going to change boundaries right now. We're not going to change the way that we feel about a situation now. We're going to have a really difficult time completely switching gears about how we feel about gift giving and how we feel when kids open presents, or how we feel when we see what gifts are given to our people, or whatever.
Yeah. So
But
I do like that. So this year we need to focus on the awareness, being aware of what's happening, what's causing our triggers, so that moving forward we can deal with it better. I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
But
So
the stepping outside, yeah, and I do that whole like focusing, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear,
yep.
that kind of thing. It tends to ground me. If I can just ground
Uh-huh.
myself, then I don't stress.
Yep.
Also moving. Like
Yes.
when we were in Puerto Rico, Kristen said, me and her were in the same boat. We were all in that tiny room and it was great. It was fantastic. But my anxiety levels were kind of all over the place. But just even stepping outside and moving my body,
Mm-hmm.
it helped. So
Yep.
those are great tips. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And if you can go out and put your hand on a tree,
Yes.
because there's multiple senses there, and you're really changing your focus. Those 5
Mm-hmm.
things. It doesn't have to be 5, but if you just walk outside, walk up to a tree and put your hand on it and just breathe.
Uh-huh. So it's about changing your thought process. It's stopping the
It
stress.
is. It's stopping that thought. It's changing gears. The same thing can be said if you are emotionally eating at a Christmas dinner. So if you find yourself continuing to walk back and pick up a food,
Oh,
walk outside. You gotta snap
it's
the
not
circuit.
just yes. Oh,
You gotta
so
snap the circuit.
okay, I'm having a realization here. So I had previously, when we talked, I was like, "Oh, I've been off my diet. I've not even stepped on the scale." Which I mean, I'm not dieting. I'm trying to be healthier. I want my
Yeah.
body back in balance and working. And that's why I've been successful. But so I've been thinking, oh my gosh, I had COVID. We've been gone for 2 weeks. I have been extremely sick again. But my mom made potato soup. But Lindsay, if I would have stopped with potato soup, it would have been a conscious decision to eat the potato soup and move on with life, that 80/20.
Yep.
But
Yep.
because I was sick and I'm in the midst of the holiday anxiety, I'm realizing now that I also had to have that piece of pie that because Mama made
Mhm.
a homemade chocolate pie. But then I was even like, Jeremy, man, let's have some ice cream. Lindsay, I haven't done that in 9 months.
Mhm.
So I was thinking it was, oh, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good, feed it. No,
Emotions.
exactly. But
Yep.
that awareness,
Mhm.
again, being aware of what you're doing when you're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's powerful because I was not even aware that I was emotional eating until you just pointed out that goes along with stress.
Yes. It does. It does.
Mm.
And now you are aware. So when Christmas is right around the corner, and if you find yourself falling back into another pattern of not being able to get out of that cycle of the foods that don't fuel your body,
Mm.
you've got to do something to snap out. Go someplace you don't normally go. Like go to I don't know, do you guys have Fresh Kitchen or someplace that's like you're going out, but you're doing something that is a fuel foods kind of, it's something different. It derails you, but you're getting back into fuel foods into your body, and
Yeah.
but it's outside of your normal pattern. You've got to disconnect the circuit that's like
So there you go with stopping again. You
mhm,
have to stop it, disconnect the circuit, as you said. With the anxiety, you walk
mhm,
outside, you touch a tree, you move your body. With the emotional eating, you have to be
out
aware
of the
it's happening,
situation.
stop it, and move forward.
Yep.
Because yeah, what you said, be conscious and say, "Hey, I made the decision to eat horrible today.
Yep.
That's fine."
It's fine.
But when it continues to happen because I ate bad yesterday, right? Or, there's still pie left. Like
Yep.
mom only makes it once a year. But if I stop that circuit,
Yep.
right, and change that thought process, that's
Yep.
where you move forward and deal with stress. Because
Mhm.
emotional eating, changing your daily intake back to sugar and over processed foods
Mhm.
and things like that, that's got to add to stress too, right?
Mhm. Well, it starts to make your body feel bad. The sugar
Mm-hmm.
you start to crave. And let me ask you something. Why can your mom only make that pie one time a year? You could ask her to make it any time of the year. So, that's a
Excuses.
spot where you can say, I had a piece, it was awesome. I don't need any more. And don't feel bad that you threw it away.
Yep.
Don't tell, just don't feel bad. Just throw it away and be like, you know what? If I want this in 3 weeks, I'm going to be like, hey, mom, I have a confession. I threw the pie away because I needed to break the circuit, but I need it now. But you won't because
No,
it's a conscious choice.
you're
And
right.
you, yeah,
It's all about removing that from, stopping the circuit, removing it. I agree.
don't
Um,
feel guilty. No shame and blame.
yeah.
Made the choice to move on.
And I think too, a lot of people like, okay, why do people choose in January to get back on the health journey and lose weight? Because it doesn't matter how good we do in the first part of the year. We make excuses, and that's all it is.
Yep.
We make excuses during this time. Well, Thanksgiving, and I've got 5 Thanksgiving dinners, and then
Mhm.
my birthday, I'm going to go
Yep.
out with my friends, and
Mhm.
I'm getting my dad. I'll see my dad too, and I'll see my mom. And so it's excuses, and you're getting called up. So stop.
And we make this imaginary line on January 1st as the circuit break.
Right.
We know we're breaking a circuit, but we have to prepare for it. Just
Mm-hmm.
break the circuit now.
Yeah.
Chop it. Be done. I
That
can
makes
have
a lot
that
of
pie
sense.
anytime.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, if you're not eating all that mess, like you said, your body's going to respond better to stress.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Cortisol causes stress, right? Look,
Yep.
I'm not the doctor here.
Yeah. But really, it does. So again, and I will always come back to this awareness and no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot judge what you've already done. It does nothing but keep you in a cycle of blaming yourself and feeling shameful.
Yes.
So you say, cool, see that it happened. And you know what? Even if it happens again, it's okay. Not ready to change yet. Just not ready yet. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just having awareness, seeing the cycles, understanding patterns, and knowing that you need a little more support. You may need more tools. You may need help from someone.
Yeah. So that's another thing we've talked about accountability partner, but if you don't use them when you're in the middle of a
Mhm.
spiral, then what good is it?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I agree 100% with every
Yeah.
bit of it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value here with dealing with stress, especially for me. The awareness is big. I wrote that down like 3 times.
Yeah. It's if you do not have clarity around the situation you're in always, you cannot change it. Doesn't matter where you're going, doesn't matter where you're standing. It's like if you are in a box and you put yourself in a box and you don't want to take the box off and you don't want to see where you are and you don't want to expose those pieces that are hard to look at, you're never going to have sustainable change. You know that. That's with food. That's with anxiety. That's with boundaries. That's with every single thing in life. And it is hard. It is so hard to be vulnerable with yourself and look at the pieces that are difficult and shattered and wounded.
Mhm.
But if you don't look at them, they will never change. Never. So it's all about awareness and no judgment and know where you need to work on things.
I agree.
So, all right. Well, that was an awesome
Yeah, it
emotional
was. I'm
episode.
just thinking about all the tools I have moving forward. So I know you usually like to recap, but what I want to say here before you do is that I have value here. So what I find the most valuable, besides the awareness we've already discussed, is the you're in the middle of the stress now. There's not a lot we can do except the stress. Sorry, I think they're doing work outside. There's not a lot we can do except know that the stress is there and deal with it by stopping, grounding yourself, creating a change physically. Get up, go outside in the cold air. Get up, go
Yep.
touch a tree. Breathe a
Yep.
few times. Remove yourself from the situation. That right there to me is how I'm going to deal with the stress that I know is coming. I'm preparing for it. I know how I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to make sure that I'm aware of it so that when we're through the holidays, we can start new and deal with it then so that it doesn't happen again. So thank you, because this has been so
Welcome.
valuable for me.
You're welcome. It's to just knowing, what do you need to learn next year? What are the things? What does your path look like? And we'll get into this, like setting intentions for the year, closer to the end of the year. But I think that that's big, that you're collecting data right now.
Yes.
And then we'll be able to analyze, what do you need to do moving forward? What does your plan look like moving forward? What
Yes.
steps do you need to take to learn boundaries, to learn these things that you're now understanding, that you have to just take inventory right now, have awareness around it, don't judge that it's happening, get yourself settled after the holidays,
Yes.
and then really look at, what is my path to healing look like?
So I'm going to pull a Lindsey right now and say, write it down. Be able to reflect in January on what you went through now, so that you are ready to face it all next year.
Yep.
Write it down. Yeah. We'll analyze it in January.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I hope that you found value in this episode. If you think that there is someone in your life who could benefit from this episode, moving into Christmas and understanding what they need to be aware of, please share it with them. Give us a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform, and go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode from us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.